If someone hits you up asking, do you offer music lessons or how much do you charge for a lesson? That's a good sign. It means there's some interest, but this is where a lot of musicians mess up because what happens next is what actually matters when it comes to whether or not they become a student of yours. In this video, I'll walk you through the exact structure that I used to turn casual interest into committed paying students using just one free session that actually builds trust and gets the potential student excited to learn from you. This is the same approach that took me from broke to building a six-figure online music teaching business, and every student that I worked with came through this process. Let's break down why this works so well and why offering a free session is way more powerful than most musicians realize. So why offer a free session at all? It's basically because you're front-loading value, right? It gives the potential student a taste of what it's like to work with you, but more importantly, it builds trust. This isn't just a free lesson or like a jam or something. It's not about showing off or trying to impress someone into saying yes. What we're really doing here is creating a focused, structured conversation that helps the student feel seen, feel understood, and most importantly, excited about what's actually possible. At the same time, it helps you figure out if this person is actually a good fit for what you offer. Someone you'd enjoy working with and someone you can genuinely help. That's what makes this different from just offering a freebie or hoping someone sticks around after a trial lesson. Goal isn't to overload them with information, it's to help them feel like, wow, this person really gets me and they know how to get me where I want to go. Another reason this works so well is it naturally filters out the right kind of students, right? If someone isn't necessarily that serious or they just want a quick fix or like a one-off lesson, they're probably not going to book a session like this, right? But if someone who's ready to talk about their goals and open up a little bit about what's been holding them back, that's someone who's already halfway committed. So this session isn't just for the student, it helps you as well. It lets you focus your time and energy on people who are actually ready to get results. And the best part is this framework works no matter what instrument you teach. I obviously built an online drum business, but it's not just for drummers or even advanced players or people with a big audience. It works for any instrument, for guitar, vocals, piano, music production, anything. Because the principles are universal. It's just about basic human psychology and not even musical content. This also only really works if you're offering a monthly coaching model or some kind of package of lessons, okay? If you're just doing one-offs like charging by the hour, which I really don't recommend, and there's other videos on this channel about why that doesn't make sense, but you don't want to be charging by the hour for this. You want to have either a monthly coaching rate or at the very least use it to offer a clear package. But ideally, you're offering a structured, ongoing solution to a specific kind of student. And that's exactly what I did. I had a 3-month coaching program and it was tailored to intermediate drummers specifically. So every single student who signed up went through this process first. Now, most musicians who are looking for help, especially online, are overwhelmed, okay? They've watched a million tutorials on YouTube, they've downloaded PDFs, they've sat through a bunch of generic lessons, and they're still stuck in a plateau, right? They're not looking for more content. Okay, what they're really looking for is clarity. They want someone to say, here's what I see going wrong, here's how I'd help, and here's what the first step looks like. And that's exactly what this kind of session, this free session delivers. And it builds trust really quickly because it's not even a pitch, right? You're not like listing features or reciting your resume. You're simply guiding someone towards a better understanding of their problem and how to solve it. Because when someone goes from confusion to clarity in like a single 30-minute video call, that shift, that emotional shift from being kind of stuck to excited about the possibilities is often the exact thing that will make them say yes and get them to jump on board with your lessons. And even if someone doesn't sign up, you still win because these sessions make you a better teacher. The more you do them, the better you get at asking the right questions and, more importantly, spotting patterns in what students are struggling with and designing solutions that actually get results. You'll learn what language your students use, where they get stuck, what makes them hesitate, and all of that makes your coaching stronger. So let's say you've had a student reach out and say, hey, you know, how much for a lesson? Or maybe you've made some content or you've got some kind of interest, right? That usually comes in the form of a DM, right? We're looking to move the DM to this free session. So basically what you want to do is once you've had that conversation of the students expressing that basic interest, you then suggest, hey, why don't we jump on? I can give you a quick free session and we can talk about how potentially I can help you. So here's a framework that you can use for your free sessions, and it's made up of 4 simple parts. Okay, you've got connection, you've got discovery, you've got vision, and the ask. Okay, so let me walk you through exactly how to run it step by step. Now, in the opening part of this call, the first 2 or 3 minutes, right, you jump on a video call, you want to have a relaxed intro. Obviously, you just say hi, make them feel comfortable, right? Maybe ask them how long they've been playing, where they live, just a little bit of small talk to kind of bring their attention into the call, just helping make them feel comfortable and seen, obviously, just as a person and not just a potential student. I really like using that relaxed kind of energy for these type of calls, because if you dive straight into like questioning, sometimes they can feel a bit rushed and they can feel a little bit defensive as well. So if you just take a couple of minutes just to genuinely connect with the other person, I know this sounds obvious, but it's an important part of the call. It will definitely help set things up the right way. Then after a couple of minutes of that, what you want to basically do is frame the objective of the call for the potential student. So you might say something like, so the idea of this session is basically to figure out kind of where you're at with your playing, what you're trying to improve, maybe some things that you've been struggling with. I can then walk you through how I'd approach helping you fix that. And then if it makes sense, we can talk about what working together would actually look like. Sound good? Right, so all this does is just kind of let the student know what to expect in the call, okay? And it gives it structure, and it immediately makes you feel more professional, and it sets the expectation for the session, right? We're not just hanging out. It's like you've got an agenda, and it makes them feel really safe. It makes them feel like you really know what you're doing and you've done this before, right? And obviously they can kind of relax into that process. The second part of the call is what we would call discovery. You basically here, you just switch into listening mode, okay? Your job here is to learn about the student. Now you want to spend a good 5, 10, 15 minutes on this, right? Asking them what are their goals, right? What made you want to kind of reach out for lessons? What's something you'd love to be able to do on your instrument that feels out of reach at the moment? You know, what kind of goals do you have over the next 6, 12 months? Have you had lessons before? This kind of thing. You want to really dig and go deeper, right? So whenever they give you an answer, you want to expand on it. So if they say, well, I want to improve this. Oh, okay, well, in what way? Like, what would that actually look like for you? You want to really unpack how they're feeling about what they're struggling with, and more importantly, the motivations behind what they're actually working on. When you ask thoughtful questions and just let them speak, you're doing 2 things, okay? The first, you're helping them articulate their problems, which helps build their self-awareness. And secondly, you're showing them that you're not just another teacher, right? You're someone who actually listens and gets it. That alone builds more trust than most teachers ever do. I swear we've all had a lesson with someone where we've walked into the lesson and they just start teaching you stuff without asking you anything, right? They don't know about what your goals are. They don't know about what you want to learn. And then there's just this feeling of disconnect because they haven't bothered to do that. Anyway, so as they open up, you want to be reflecting their answers back to them, and it really helps them feel understood. So you can say things like, okay, so it sounds like you're trying to develop more confidence playing with other musicians, but maybe your timing or your phrasing feels a bit inconsistent, and you know, you're not sure what to practice to improve it. Is that right? The reason this is powerful is when you reflect things back to them, right? It shows you actually heard them, right? You're not just guessing, you're summarizing what they said with clarity and with confidence, and it makes them feel understood, which is a huge moment for building trust. So after that, after 5, 10 minutes of that, we move into the next phase, which is kind of the vision, or some people call this the bridge. Once you understand their goals and struggles, now you transition into basically how you would help. And this is a bit of a teaching part, but it's definitely not by giving them a full lesson. It's more about laying out a clear path, okay? So you might say something like, all right, well, given everything you've told me, basically here's how I would approach helping you with this. And then you outline a plan, okay? And you go through this plan with them, right? Step 1 would be, obviously we want to simplify your practice, right? Sounds like right now you're juggling a lot of different exercises and you're not seeing a lot of progress. So I basically help you focus on lesser areas, 3 areas, something like that, and we'll build a weekly routine around those. Then from there, we move on to step 2. We track specific progress markers like timing at different tempos so you can see yourself actually improving. Now, obviously this plan is going to be different depending on what your specific target students are and like the specific problems that you're helping with. But what's important here is that as you're moving through this plan, you're checking in with the student as well. So you're asking them, does that make sense? You know, have you tried anything like that before? You know, do you think this kind of structure would help, right? And the reason this works is you're not giving advice to sound smart. You're actually showing them what it would feel like to be coached by you, okay? And you're planting the seed of clarity, right? When you speak to their problem with a structured solution, they start to imagine what it would be like to finally get results. You're also providing relief and not just excitement, because most musicians feel overwhelmed and scattered with the things that they have to learn, and giving them a simplified plan really makes them feel like change is possible. You don't need to give them 10 exercises and a bunch of PDFs and all that stuff. Just focus on clarity and direction, not information overload. So in this section of the call, 5 to 10 minutes, you're just looking to connect a couple of dots and outline a really solid plan for how they would actually improve those areas. Now, in the final section of the call, you're going to make the ask and you're finally going to talk about your actual coaching. If you've done this right, if you set this up right, by this stage, they're nodding along, you know, they might even be asking a couple of questions or saying things like, yeah, that makes so much sense. That's your cue, right? You've done the heavy lifting in the call, you've listened, you've understood what they need, and you've shown them a clear path forward with you. Now it's time to invite them to take the next step. And that's all it is, right? It's an invitation. You're not pushing anything. You're not even really selling, right? You're just saying to them, okay, cool. Well, does this sound like it would help you? Yes. Would you like to get started on that with me? That sentence is often all it takes, because when the rest of the session is done properly, it doesn't feel like a decision for the student. It feels like the obvious next step. Now, if they say yes and go, well, what would that look like? Just keep it simple, keep it confident, and then you just outline the details of your coaching. Okay, well, you know, for me to help you with this, we'd have one session a week. It would cost $300 a month. I provide support in between the sessions, and I also give you feedback on your practice, and I can help you with that. What you're doing here is you're helping them picture the container, what working with you actually looks like day to day. No jargon, no bullet points, just clarity, right? If they seem hesitant or say they need to think about it, don't panic, you know, just stay calm, stay curious, and gently follow up with them. Like, yeah, that's no problem. Totally understand. Just so I know, like, what's the main thing that you want to think about, or what's giving you pause. This gives them space to kind of voice whatever's on their mind, and gives you a chance to respond like a human, right? Not a robot trying to like handle objections or anything. And here's what's important to remember. Asking someone to take the next step isn't pushy, it's respectful. Okay, if you've just spent 30 or 40 minutes focused entirely on them, you've helped them get clear on their goals, you've shown them a possible path forward. Of course, you're going to ask if they want help with it. That's what a good coach or teacher does. You're not convincing anyone of anything they don't already want. You're just offering to walk with them instead of leaving them to figure out alone. And honestly, not making the ask would be kind of a selfish move, because if someone's just had clarity and a clear path forward and a vision of what that looks like, and you don't offer to help them keep that momentum going, they're going to walk away feeling inspired but directionless. So be direct, be clear, be kind, and if it's a yes, awesome, right? And if it's a no, that's fine too, right? You still delivered some value, you still learned something, and you're getting better at having these conversations every time you do it. But most of the time, when the session is done with the right people, they will say yes, right? Because they can finally see what's possible. Here's a few things to avoid when you do these free sessions. The first is don't overteach. Okay, this is one of the big traps that musicians fall into. You want to prove that you're worth what you're charging, so you end up thinking that value comes from cramming in a bunch of exercises, techniques, and detailed advice. But the problem is it actually can overwhelm the student. New information creates more questions, and suddenly they feel like they're further rather than being closer to their goals, right? And that pressure kind of makes them hesitate to sign up. So what works better is to just zoom out and give them a simple plan, make one or two clear insights that make them think, oh, I've never thought about it like that before. Or when they feel more confident and see that you actually get their problem, that's when they want to keep working with you. Second thing is, don't talk about pricing too early. Let's say you get a DM and someone's like, hey, how much for a lesson? And then you just say, well, it's, $60 an hour, and then they ghost you, right? But it's usually because they're not really associating any sort of value with the price, okay? So when you lead with price, you're giving them a decision before they understand that value, okay? They haven't shared what they're struggling with. They haven't seen how you would help them. So the number, whatever it is, feels like too much. Save pricing to the end, right? After they've told you your goals, after you've shown them a clear path, and after they've confirmed that they feel like you can help them. That way, the price feels like a fair exchange for something that they want and not just a number that they have to justify. Third mistake is don't leave the call open-ended, okay? You've helped them, they're nodding along, and then you say something like, cool, just let me know, or you can get back to me, or just DM me, and then obviously they ghost you, okay? And not because they didn't like the call, but because there's no next step, there's no momentum, okay? Life gets in the way, something might come up, something distracts them, and that spark is gone. And instead, just make the ask simple and direct. Hey, you want to get started? If you're in, I can send everything over you need today to get started. And if it's a no, that's fine, but we don't want to leave them on the fence. You want it to be either a yes or a no, okay? It's fine either way, right? But we want to help them arrive at a decision. You've already done the hard part with the call. Now it's just kind of basically giving them a path forward. The last mistake too is don't make it all about you. All right. It's easy to fall into the trap of kind of listing your experience and explaining your process in a way that centers you. Like, I charge this much, I've taught for this long, I usually do it like this. Students care most about what they're going to get. If it feels like you're just reciting your credentials, they'll tune out, right? Instead, you want to tie everything back to them and make it clear that the structure you've built is for their goals. Something like this: based on what you've told me, I'd structure it like this so you finally feel confident achieving XYZ goal, right? It's a small shift, but it kind of shows that you're listening and you're not just talking, and that's what ultimately builds trust. So that's the full framework that I use to turn interest into paying students using one simple, structured, free session. It's not even really a pitch. It's just about providing some clarity, building some trust, and offering a next step. If you want to see how I actually got my first students using Facebook and how you can find potential students to have these calls with, check out this video here. I'll take you through everything step by step.